So normally when these flat felled seams are created on the industrial sewing machine, it's taking the fabric and like rolling them and cupping them together and then stitching them down with 2 needles at the same time. It's a really quick, fast process. And the seam allowance is generally different on one side than it is the other. So it is a very different process than creating something at home with a flat felled seam. So let's go over how to do this on your home sewing machine so that way you can add it to your projects, making them extra strong and extra fancy. So the most common place you see a flat felled seam is on your denim. So you see how we've got 2 rows of stitching and we've got that edge there turned under. And if we take a look at the back, we also have 2 rows of stitching and we have the edge turned under. But how are we going to do this on a normal sewing machine? So there are a few different ways you can create these flat felled seams. Now my first way is going to be the easiest way to get that look for the flat felled seam. And then keep watching to the end because I'm also going to show you how to create the flat felled seam that looks just like the industrial sewing machine has created it. And we're going to make it with 1 needle, not 2. Real quick, before we get sewing, if you're enjoying Sewing Anastasia, make sure you like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel a lot. And if you want to learn even more about sewing, make sure you check out my online classes, the Sewing Club, and in-person classes. There's links down below in the description. The first step is going to be taking your seam and place it wrong sides together. And we're going to sew it up with 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. So now we have the seam created, and what we're going to do is cut off the seam allowance on one side down to about 1/4 of an inch. Bye! And now what we're going to do is take the raw edge and we're going to fold it over to that stitch line. And then we're going to take the whole piece of fabric and we're going to roll it over. But to make sure it's really nice, we're going to go over to the ironing board and iron all of this. So we're going to take the longer edge and fold it over towards the stitching line and iron it down. Ooh, it's hot. Now I'm going to take it and fold it over and give it another steam. And now we are ready to add our next row of stitching right on the edge of this fold, 1/8 of an inch away. So now I'm just adding that little edge stitch on the fold. And look at how awesome that looks. So you can see it looks just like the flat felled seam on the outside. We have 2 rows of stitching. We got this fold on the edge. Looks amazing. But let's compare it to the jeans and see what the back side looks like. So these seams look identical, 2 rows of stitching, and then we have the edge folded back and stitched down. But when we turn it to the inside, they're going to look different. So when I flip this back, you notice there's only 1 row of stitching on the sample, but there's 2 rows in the jeans. And then there's actually this big ridge over here on the jeans because it's folded under. There's no actual like seam right there. So that's the only big difference between the industrial method and this home sewing method that I showed you is that we've got this actual seam here, not this lapped seam with this extra row of stitching. So now let me show you a way that's closer to the industrial method, but with your home sewing machine. For the second method, I've ironed up 1/4 and then 1/2 inch towards the right side on one of them. And then on the other one, I ironed up 1/4 and then 1/2 inch towards the wrong side. So you're going to notice I have opposite rolls. One's towards the right side and one is towards the wrong side. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take these little folds that I created and we're going to interlock them with each other. So we're going to fold and push these together. Fold that back over how it would look on a pair of pants. And what we're going to do is add a little edge stitch on this side, and then we're going to flip it over and we're going to add a little edge stitch on this side. And we're going to be getting that 2 rows of stitching because the row of stitching I put on this side on the edge stitch is going to show up over here. And the row of stitching I put on this side for the edge stitch is also going to show up on the outside. So we are going to end up with 2 rows of stitching and we're ending up with this fabric lapping into itself, creating the flat felled seam. So if you want to see this a little bit more clearly, what we're going to do is take the fabrics and place them wrong sides together. I'm gonna line up that first 1/4 inch fold, and then we're going to fold over towards the right side. And then I'm gonna take this right side and then fold it over. And that is the fold. There's my stitch is gonna be on this side there and on that side there. So first I'm adding the stitch from the top of the fabric, the right side. Now I'm going to flip the fabric over and I'm going to add the second stitch to the other fold. And that's it. We've got our home sewn flat felled seam. So you can see how on the outside, the industrial one is looking like the home sewn one. We've got the row of stitching and we've got that fold with the edge stitch. Now let's flip it back and look at the inside. And you can see how the home one now has that fold over here with the stitching, and we also have that additional row of stitching. So you can see how this method looks more like the industrial one on the back side as well as the front. Because if we take a look at the other one we did, you can see that we don't have that additional row of stitching over here, and the ridge or the fold over here isn't as deep because it's just a seam, not a folded over edge. So now you should be able to effectively get that look on the garments, get that flat felled seam look. No matter what method you are choosing for creating it, you can now have those nice strong seams, and there's no visible raw fabric edge on either side. So this is an awesome seam to add to garments. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed learning about creating some flat felled seams on your home sewing machine. If you have any questions, leave it down below and I'll get back with you as soon as I can. I also have an additional video on creating a flat felled seam with a flat felled seam foot. So I'll leave that down below in the description as well. If you enjoyed the video today, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you know when the new videos come out. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for watching today. These videos are for you guys, so let me know what other videos you want to see coming up. Leave it down below in the comments. Don't forget, I teach classes online and in person. There's links down below for everything. Thank you so much for watching today. Bye!